Okay, about a week ago, I had a lucid dream, a really long, just completely lucid dream every moment, and it was awesome. Now, what was either really unfortunate or really fortunate, I didn't figure out exactly which, is that YouTube choked on my first video on it because, I mean, I woke up around 6:30, excuse me, around 6:30, and I made the video about 7. So it was really fresh, like dream journal kind of fresh. So I was super high on it. So so yeah, that was either too bad I didn't get to record it at that point, or fortunate. But anyway, I've told Cashify in a reply I made to another video of his of interest to me, um, that I'm interested in his feedback and all of your feedback and anybody that has conscious or lucid dreams. So a lucid dream, loosely speaking, is a dream where you're in a dream, but I don't think that really quite is sufficient. And I have a lot of experience about this. A certain kind I'll explain. But I think it's possible to have a regular old dream where your will is still, I don't know what to call it, but, a regular dream will where it feels more real than it turns out to seem when you wake up. Let's put it that way. You could have a dream where you're in a dream. You're dreaming that you're in a dream, but you still don't have that kind of will. So the lucidity is a certain kind of freedom. That's why lucidity is a good word for it. But yeah, okay. So the history is that when I was about 11 or 12, I had read in Omni magazine about lucid dreaming, and I thought, this is awesome. I mean, I always liked writing fiction. I have a vivid imagination. I can do a lot of wakeful dreaming, and create a daydream and imagine. Um, so this idea just seemed, well, awesome, right? And I'm a big fan of special effects and things, and what's better than the way you can feel in a dream? I mean, just even real life is not the same as in a dream. I mean, it's always special effects. Now, when I was really young, like 7, I was having a couple nightmares. Not a long series of them or anything, but I'd had some nightmares. I think I was talking to my aunt. She said, "Well, if you have a nightmare, you can always just close your eyes in the dream, tell yourself you're in a dream, and open your eyes, and you'll be awake and you'll be safe from it." And I had another nightmare, and I tried that, and it worked. And this was sort of the roots of mixing wakeful willfulness and the dream will. Okay, but as an escape. Okay, so then fast forward 6 years, 7 years, 5 years, whatever, and I had read about this idea. Well, I really wanted to do it, and I tried a lot, and I read things about it, and I also started working on a story, really a novel length story, which I've completed, about this phenomenon, really about it's about a character that goes into his dream world, and he finds a galaxy basically in there where the bits of his mind are arrayed out in the galaxy, and this really helped me a lot. I mean, I had another kind of dream, I don't know what you'd call it, where I visualized things during wakeful, and then I had non-lucid dreams where I knew I was in a dream. For example, people from my history that would be criticizing me. They'd criticize me in the real world, and I was a kid, and all this stray bullshit, and they'd do that. And I thought, well, look, that part of that part of that person that's in my head, like when I'm dreaming, or if I'm in a job interview, and you just hear this kind of nagging, not literally hear it, but you know what I mean? It's like those self-doubts that are coming from those sources. It occurred to me, hey, that's part of my mind, and I would like to meet that character in my mind and convince them, look, dude, you're not who you think you are. You're me. Okay? You are hurting yourself when you hurt me, because you and I are the same. And yet I figure, hey, a personality in the gray matter of my mind could have its own personality. It's trying to mimic somebody else's personality, somebody's personality that is that is an expression or emerges from a neurological activity. I've got neurological activity. It can actually be expressing their style while it's in my mind, be me and yet be separate. And I ended up having some dreams. Actually, that one went kind of bad because one of the characters was like, "Yeah, I know, but I just hate you," or something like. He didn't say that, but he was very angry because I'd been very forceful, and in this dream I had confined him to a very idyllic but still cage-like planet where he couldn't escape. Anyway, that's another story. Okay, and so these are all proactive psychological visualizations, use of metaphor to achieve psychological results. All right. So since then, I had various lucid dreams. I remember one lucid dream. I was in what was like my bed, and I realized I'm dreaming, and I can do whatever I wanted. I'm going to levitate. And I levitated, and I was levitated for a while. It was a couple minutes. And then I had this feeling of dread, and it just all fell apart, went black, and I woke out of it. And I've had many periods of lucidity. Okay, many periods of lucidity in dreams. Now, usually what happens is I start to have this lucidity, and I'm like, I'm in a dream. I want to look at that. And then I scrutinize something, and it all starts to go black, and I can still hear things, but I lose the dream, and I lose it. So they haven't lasted very long. Now, the closest thing to a lucid, complete, what's complete about a dream, but long dream was one dream I had, I don't know, a year and a half ago, and I had just a few moments of lucidity, but I didn't lose the dream. I remember the first moment in the dream was like, I'm in a dream. It was a weird, like, Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, or whatever. It was that kind of technology, like 1950s, super shiny, everything's clean, but, it was super high-tech versions of cars that otherwise would have been from the 40s or something. These cars all on tracks in the city. And it was just a lovely setting, or if it was a film, the cinematography would have been quite nice. And I remember thinking that, and I looked up at the moon, and I still remember it's crystal clear as when I had it, or maybe not quite as, but pretty crystal clear. Just looking at the moon, a full moon, and the clouds passing by, and just how beautiful it was, because that's beautiful in the real world, but in this case it's like you're a part of those clouds, and you can, it's like, there's just an element to it. It was just so beautiful. But then in that dream I forgot that I was in a dream again, and I remember later, and a lot of elements of that dream had a sort of parts that I'm used to in my dreams. I haven't had any nightmares that I can remember for a very, very long time. But often I'll have a dream, and I'm in a place that I know, but it doesn't look like I know it to look, or a house, my grandmother's house, and it doesn't look like her house. And furthermore, there's all these I have lots of dreams with big places with secret passageways and stuff, and I'm just exploring them. But often some amount of stress comes in, like, I'll run into somebody who's malevolent. I won't be worried for myself, but I'll think, oh, I gotta get the kids out, or I gotta save this person, or something like this. And there's just sort of kind of an angst. Okay, well, this dream I had, the non-lucid part of the dream went on for a while, and I was walking. It was at my house, and they're walking in the front yard, and there was a crevice there in the dried, rock that is what this island is made of. Now we have soil here, but in a lot of places on the island, these 200-year-old lava flow created rocks are just, less than an inch below the surface. And it looked like that. And there was a crack there. It was kind of smoldering, and I thought, oh, somebody dropped a cigarette butt or something in there, and all the dry leaves are smoldering. It's kind of a mix between here and California, because here, that would just go out. The things would be too wet to probably smolder, but whatever. And then I'm getting the hose, which is near there, and I'm like, I should spray, put it out, make sure it's okay. And I'm having some of these slightly angsty things, like the hose wasn't long enough, the water pressure wasn't high enough, I couldn't turn it on, things like that. Finally, I managed to, the hose still was never long enough, but I managed to spray it over there from where I was. But then as I'm walking back around, I noticed, geez, it's hot. So I bent over and I looked down in there, and I think a couple of kids or people came over and looked with me, and we saw down in the crevice a little pool of lava, and it was spitting and stuff. It was funny because I kind of remember some of the little bits, you know, splashed to my face, which is not a good thing to have lava splash in your face, but it was no problem. And it was kind of cool. I wasn't too worried or panicked. And that's the other thing. Usually when there is a crisis in these dreams, I don't panic, but I start to feel like, well, I better do something about it. And then I'll do something else, and I'll remember, ooh, I got to do something about it, which will just make the whole thing more angsty. Okay, but as I'm walking around to the side of my house, I see out of the corner of my eye, you know, our stairway and porch, and it's not like mine. I think that isn't what my porch looks like. And so I turned to look at it, you know, and I hadn't had the conscious thought, the words in my head, but I was realizing then, oh, it's a dream. And I turned to look and scrutinized, and it started to go black. And then I remembered, hey, when you do that in these dreams, you lose it. So just go with the flow. Don't try to scrutinize it. So I turned away, and the scene came back just as it had been. I walked around, and oddly, there was a bunch of people there, you know, a half dozen to a dozen, and one of them was my landlord. And it was just this funny thing, because this always happens to me. I don't know about you guys in dreams, but it was my landlord, my current landlord. But it didn't look like my landlord, it didn't talk like my landlord, it was nothing like my landlord. But, you know, it wasn't that I had a different landlord. It was like, that's my landlord. And I remember looking at him and thinking, that's not all what my landlord looks like. And my landlord said, oh, this is totally lucky. And I'm like, how is this lucky? I'm having a lava fissure form in my front yard. And he's like, well, everybody will love it, and you know, they'll come to see it, you know, with the implication, or maybe even said, you know, and you could charge for it. But I had no intention of charging for it, but I laughed at that. And at that point, because at that point, actually after I passed around the, if I wasn't clear of the porch, you know, I had maintained this lucidity. And so I just laughed and had kind of an attitude of, we'll see what's coming on. And we saw a lot of neat stuff. The thing started spew, and the lava never spurted out, but weird kinds of steam and things were happening over there. And it was really wonderful. That went on for a while, and then after that I was walking around and talking to different groups of people. And what I remember most was just enjoying this wonderful texture of the world. You know, the special effects in a dream that's vivid, lucid or not, are really a lovely thing, that, in the sense that you feel this, or it seems like I feel the space. You know, it's a 3D thing that includes smell and sound, vibes. It's just, there's so much there. You don't need a science fiction setting. Just right there in a mundane setting, it's like the most amazing special effects. And it was pretty much the rest of the dream. There's details and things I could go into, but I don't think is very interesting. Really, the main thing was just enjoying walking around in the texture of this world. But it was really important to me, and I think I learned something that applies to my regular life, because I've long intellectually known about different kinds of inquiry. And I think what I found was that if I scrutinize something, when I realize I'm in a dream and it's like, oh, I'm in a dream, and look, I'm going to look really closely at the pencil and scrutinize it for all its details, it evaporates. Because in the dream world, to have a skeptical inquiry of that type leads to nihilism, because it's all imaginary. Now, in the waking life, dream or not, you can scrutinize like that, and you're bearing down onto what's left, and that's what you're trying to find. You're trying to get rid of the face in the tree so you could see if it's a person or a tree. You're trying to, you know, find out what's really there, and you challenge it, and I want to come from a million different angles, and so I want to lose one of my psychological angles and let another one form. But in the dream, I found you don't scrutinize, or if I do scrutinize, that's the word I've chosen for it. I dissolve it. So what I would do instead is I gaze. I can gaze and absorb that, but not challenge it as much. And this is a distinction I've known for decades. But I feel that distinction now because I could test one and the other. Because I could start to scrutinize and then gaze instead and regain the lucidity. You know, I feel I really know that distinction. I'm going to make another 1-minute video for my other last point on this. Cheers.